think since Tisha B'Av, no? 3 weeks, that's it? All right, good enough. All right, there's an interesting story that was, it's not working?
No, I'm just gonna say.
Oh, thank you. There was an interesting story that I was doing some research on the halachot of Mukseh, and they're dealing with the animals, if they're Mukseh, what type of Mukseh they are. There's an amazing story I read, I gotta share it with you. There was this family in Israel, they owned this, this parrot. It was a huge, colorful parrot, and the parrot, expensive, one of these types, so at home, it felt completely at home, always. It would only go inside the cage to sleep at night. Otherwise, the rest of the day, it was in the backyard, at home, knew everyone by name, would call everyone by name. And so slowly this family started becoming observant. And they started keeping Shabbat more and more, and keeping, things. So this parrot started learning Baruch Hashem, Baruch Hashem, Baruch Hashem. And then every Friday, automatically, without anyone telling you it's Shabbat, he would say Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom. It was just a joy to have at home. One day, during the week, the Dud Shemesh, the Dud Shemesh on top of the roof, these things that they work with solar power to heat the water, it broke, so the technician was on top of the roof fixing it. And when you fix it, you usually got to open up the tank, and all the water comes out. So all the hot water came out. This poor parrot was taking a daily stroll in the backyard and got wet. So got very scared and just took off. Started flying. It never went away from home. Started flying away. Got so scared. And then it was like trying to go back and find its home. Couldn't find it. Kept on flying and flying. Finally, just fainted in the middle of some field. And they started searching. This guy, this family, they loved this parrot. They couldn't find it. They searched for days, weeks, months, and then they gave up. Until 2 years passed. 2 years passed, and friends of the family told them, there is this family that they're really into birds. The husband is like a professor or something in some university in Israel, and they are becoming Shomer Shabbat. Why don't you connect with them? You are also into birds and everything. You used to have a parrot, and so maybe you could connect with them somehow, teach them a thing or two about Shabbat and so on and so forth. I says, I'll be glad to. Give them my number, I'll talk to them. So they give him the number, they're talking back and forth, and he says, yeah, I used to have a parrot, and this parrot used to say Baruch Hashem, Baruch Hashem, Baruch Hashem, Shabbat Shalom every Friday automatically, he says, oh, how nice, and they were talking, and then they hang up. So the guy, the professor's wife, told him, who was it? He said, the previous owners of this parrot. She said, what? Really? He said, yeah, I'm not going to tell them anything about the parrot. So she says, no, what are you talking about? Now, bizchut this parrot, we started keeping Shabbat. What happened was, they found this parrot, and they were taking care of it, this beautiful parrot. Suddenly, this parrot starts saying, Baruch Hashem, Baruch Hashem. What's this thing saying? Yeah. Or on Friday, suddenly, just on its own, started saying, Shabbat Shalom. And they were like, what in the world is going on? Because of this parrot, they went to Arachim, Hartza'ah, the Shabbat weekend off, and they started keeping Shabbat. And now the husband didn't want to give up this parrot. So the wife says, no, this is it would only be right to give the parrot back. And so they did. It's like, could you imagine what this little parrot could do? I remember one time Rabbi Ovadia was saying, he was in New York, if I'm not mistaken. And, after the whole, after the meal and everything, where he was staying, everyone went to sleep, and that was his time of work. He started learning. So he goes to the study, they had left the light on for him, and he was studying. Suddenly he hears someone says Shabbat Shalom. So he says Shabbat Shalom, and he continues, and 2 minutes later, again Shabbat Shalom. He says Shabbat Shalom. He continued learning. Then again, this thing happened. He says, who is this He keeps saying Shabbat Shalom, interrupting. He looks in the corner, there's a little parrot standing there saying Shabbat Shalom. So he says, Ishtabach Shalom. That's what we're dealing with. Anyhow, we'll get to the halachot of pets and animals, which is a different category of Mukseh. Right now, we were still little touches of Keli She Melachto Le'isur. Anyone remember what this is? I know it's a long time. Keli She Melachto Le'isur. It's a vessel. It is a vessel. It is a utensil or vessel. But the melacha of this is Le'isur. Examples, we said, cell phones, pens, the melacha of these things are isur. But the category is that you are allowed to move keli shemelachto leisur letzorech gufo unkomo. You need the guf, you need the thing itself, right? You need the cell phone to use as a paperweight, right? The guf of the cell phone, so you could use it. And wind is blowing your napkins, and you could take the cell phone and move it and put it on top of these things, so that the wind won't blow it. That's using the guf of the cell phone. I don't know if you want to do that, but you could. Or the tzorech mekomo. You need where it is. You want to sit on the chair, and there is a cell phone on the chair. You could pick it up normally and put it somewhere safe and sit on the chair. Okay, without shinui. Shinui is something else already. That's the tzorech gufo mekomo. Okay, it's a little bit more stringent that keli shemelachto leheter, where there is an added thing that even mechamal letzel, right, for its own protection. You could move that, whereas this, you can't move for its own protection, unless you do it b'shinui. That means you're afraid that your cell phone is in the backyard. You don't need the tzorech gufo mekomo, but someone's going to steal it, or it's going to get ruined under these days, the sun, heat of the sun. So you want to move it, you can't, right? That's mechamal letzel, keli shemelachto leisur, that would be asur. Clear?
Isn't it better that you use something else to hold your papers than a cell phone?
Well, there is nothing else there, and the wind is blowing. What are you going to do?
Well, you shouldn't have your cell phone on you if it's Shabbat anyway.
You're right. You're 100% right. That's the scenario that I could come up with. You're right. Off the top of my head, that's,
Hammer, whatever.
A hammer. Thank you. Yeah. Right. We said you want to use a hammer, to crack open a nut, That's perfectly fine.
I'm sorry. Under no circumstance you're allowed to move your phone if it's in.
For its own protection?
Yeah.
No. What do you mean under no circumstances?
With the shinoi you can.
With the shinoi, yes. I'm talking about just picking it up normally. With the shinoi, with your foot, with the shinoi, with a change, a different manner, with your foot or with your two elbows, you want to pick it up. That's fine. You could do that. Okay. Or if it's, we're not talking about a phone. We're talking about something that could damage people. Certainly we could move it. Or you could tell Mustafa. You could tell a goy to go ahead and move it. That's also fine. So the goy doesn't have the isur of Mukseh, so there's no amira. I mean, I'm saying this is a rabbinic thing, right? So shavut, telling them to move something, that's not something that would be asur, right? So that would be allowed. How about I don't know if we discussed this, a pocket knife. Pocket knife that has what does it have? It has a scissors, it has a saw, it has things that are mukseh, but it also has a knife. And you want to use the knife. Are you allowed to use it? It's a mixture of mukseh and non-mukseh things. Yeah, just don't open the mukseh stuff. You could open up the regular stuff, which is fine. Some of them have nail clippers. I don't know what they have. They have all types of things. Or a file, nail file. So those things are not allowed, but don't open those. Now, is one allowed to turn a fan, a very applicable halacha for these days, on Shabbat, not turn it on, turn it, right? Turn it towards yourself.
Yes.
It's a keli shemelachto leisur, correct? But letzorach gufo, right? You need the thing to be facing you. That's fine. What about when the fan is turning this way and that way? You just want to lift the button so it'll stay, or push the button, whichever, right? So it'll stay in one direction, or to move around. Can we do that?
It's not electronic.
If what?
It's not electronic.
Correct. The tower ones, they're electronic. You gotta press this button and it's electronic. That you can't do. But the classic fans, those things, you just gotta lift this button and put it back down. Those are allowed, not a problem. How about a ladder? Is a ladder keli shemelachto leisur or leheter?
Can't it be for either one?
Good. A ladder that is used for painters, for construction workers, that is definitely keli shemelachto leisur. They use it to climb, to fix things, and so on and so forth. That is keli shemelachto leisur. Therefore, one could only move it l'sorach gufo u'makomo. But the step ladder or things like a home ladder that is used generally for you want to reach hard to reach places. That is a keli shemelachto leheter. So there is a distinction between ladders, like the step ladders or these smaller ladders that are used at home, not for fix-it purposes, but for the purposes of home usage. Those are not keli shemelachto leisur. They're keli shemelachto leheter. Therefore, you could move it mechama letzer, just to have it put on a safe place. That is perfectly fine. One could do it, but the other ladders, you can't just pick it up and say, oh, you know what, this is not safe for this ladder. I'm gonna move it. But if the ladder is not safe for people, right? Kids are gonna climb. Chas v'shalom, it's very dangerous. Then there's no question that we could move the ladder to a safe place for the children, not for the ladder. Yeah.
Okay, what if it's not l'chama l'tzel and it's not for danger, but let's say your husband was busy doing something, he didn't have time to move it yet, and it's already Shabbos and still in the middle of the living room?
Then, if you need that space, right, people are going to trip over, then again, we're dealing with danger, right? Then you could, without shinui even, you could take it, move it, put it in a safe place, right? But if nobody's going to trip over, Baruch Hashem, the living room is huge, right? It's 1,600 square feet, the living room. So, you know what, it's just tucked away in some side of the living room, and it's not bothering anyone, then it's fine. Unless you're going to have a lot of guests.
I mean, can you see that it depends on how you feel about it?
No.
Because you could say, oh, somebody could trip into it, but any sensible person won't just walk into the ladder.
No, one of the children, they're running, they're playing.
Let's say you weren't worried about children.
Let's say if you're not worried about children, then leave it.
In the middle of the night, you might.
There's no.
Getting a drink.
You have to think. Look, you have to be honest with yourself. Is it tzorach gufo u'makomo or not? If it's I need the place or I need the thing itself, then yeah. Otherwise, no. We're talking about a ladder. Let's say for construction purposes, right? We're not talking about a ladder that is used for home stuff. The worker just forgot to remove it.
But if you need that construction ladder, you can move it?
You need the space, you need the thing
No, you
itself.
need the ladder.
Let's say you want to get a plate out of you want to get some plates out of the cabinet and you can't reach it and you need that ladder, right? That's the tzorach gufo. There's no isur in there. That's the tzorach gufo, therefore a person could do it. Very good question, right? Now, let's move to another type of mukseh. It's called, until now we had keli shemelachto leisur. Now there is another concept, Mukseh mahmat isur. Right? That means this thing, this object is mukseh. That means I set it aside from my mind because this thing is asur. Right? Prime example that the Gemara brings is, let's say someone, avera, asur, but they milked the cow on Shabbat. Okay, someone went ahead and that's isur of dash, right? They milked the cow on Shabbat. This milk is asur. You can't drink it on Shabbat. Therefore, it's mukseh. You can't move it.
What does the word mahmat mean?
Mahmat because.
Oh, it's
right?
also because it was asur?
Correct.
Because,
because it is asur. This thing is asur. Now, therefore, a person puts it out of his mind. Oh, this thing was milked on Shabbat. Or someone that went and took fruit off of the tree on Shabbat. Same exact idea, right? And now this fruit cannot be eaten. Therefore, it is mukseh mahmat isur. There is a concept you should be familiar with. It's they call it migu de itketzai beben hashmashot itketzai lekule Shabbat. Literally meaning migu, because through the fact that it was mukseh on the onset of Shabbat ben hashmashot, that means right after the sunset. At that instant that Shabbat began, this object was mukseh. That means it was mukseh. What do we say it means? It was cast aside from my mind. because at that time, at that moment, it was cast aside from your mind. Migu de itketzai, through the fact that it was mukseh, it was cast aside, the ben hashmashot, itketzai the kul Shabbat. It became mukseh for the whole Shabbat. Okay? This concept is going to be repeated. It's going to have it even on Sukkot. Even on Sukkot, you're going to have this. Be'ezrat Hashem, in a month and 2 weeks, it's going to be Sukkot. On Erev Sukkot, you should stand next to your sukkah, you or your husband, whoever, stand next to your sukkah, and say, all the decorations here in this sukkah, I am not separating myself from them during Ben Hashmashot. That means during the beginning of the Yom Tov. Otherwise, if you don't do that, that means you are makseh from your mind all the beautiful decorations you have on the sukkah. And there are mukseh for the 8 days of Sukkot. For the 8 days, not just Yom Tov, for the 8 days there are mukseh. So you would like to say, I am not makseh them, I am connected to them. That's all you have to say. You don't have to stand and hold them like, oh no, dear life, your mind, No, you just stand there and say, you know what, I'm not casting them away from my mind. I'm still connected to them, and therefore they're not going to be mukseh for the duration of this way. Even on Yom Tov, if your decorations fell, you could put it back up. It's not mukseh.
Even during Yom Tov?
Even during Yom Tov. I think we said it last year and before Halachot Sukkot, if I'm not mistaken. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know. We didn't record it, did we? I wish we did. But yeah, this is how you get rid of it, because look, even a rock before Shabbat, you say, I want to use this rock as a doorstop, it's not Mukseh on Shabbat, you could move the rock. So for sure these decorations, you could put it back up.
What if you didn't put any conscious effort into thinking about what it is or it's not?
Then we have a problem.
Then it might be considered. But hold on, but then you're using it, let's say like the rock. You didn't designate a rock, but then if you want to use it legufo to stop. Oh, really?
The rock is Mukseh mahmat gufo. Can't do nothing with it.
Oh, I thought if you need it, then you could use it.
No. The rock is Mukseh mahmat gufo. We're going to get to it. No, that's one of the hardest types of Mukseh. It's not a kli. A Mukseh that you could move is a kli. It has to be a vessel, a utensil, right? Or food. So a rock is neither. So therefore,
so it doesn't fall into it doesn't fall into those categories.
It's called Mukseh mahmat gufo. It itself is Mukseh. And it's a harder category of Mukseh. Can't move. Now, there's a concept, again, we have to go back to Gemara. This one in Masachet Betzah, it's mentioned in many places. It's called Simukim vegerogirot. Okay, Simukim are raisins, as you all know. Gerogirot are figs. Okay? What would they do in the olden days? The guy, they harvested a lot of grapes or figs, and he's eating it. He got a stomachache. He says, what am I going to do with all this? He has another 10 pounds of them. So he takes them up to the roof, right? He sets out a nice piece of cloth, and he sets them up there. What's going to happen to these nice grapes or nice figs? They're going to dry, right? But during the process of drying, they reach a level which is called nisrach. They spoil. Before they dry, they spoil. There's a lot of sugar in there, right? Whatever happens, chemical reactions that I have with the sun, and so they spoil. What? Fermentation, mutation, whatever you want to call it, right? What's going to happen is so during that process, these poor things, they go through, right, fermentation. And it is impossible to eat. What does a person do? Makseh otam midatam, right? He completely pushes him off of his mind, because I ain't gonna touch this stuff now until they completely dry. Then okay, Baruch Hashem. By the way, this is what they used to do all the time. That's the concept of dry fruit, because in the winter you're not gonna get peaches and nectarines. What are you gonna do? How are you gonna get peaches and nectarines in the winter? They would dry them in the summer months, and they would have them. Right? They didn't have the markets that we have now with all this stuff. So they had, this is what they would do the whole summer. They were busy summers. Now, these things, let's say he has some of them on the roof, and he put them there. So these are absolutely isur to move around on Shabbat, right? They are makseh otam midatam. There's nothing for them. They're not food. They're like rocks. That's what they are. Now, if at the time of Ben Hashmashot, at the onset of Shabbat, at that moment, these things were not edible, So therefore they could become completely mukseh for the whole Shabbat. This is where the concept of migu, the itkatzai, beben hashmashot, itkatzai lekule Shabbat. Because through the fact that they were mukseh at the time Shabbat began, they become mukseh for the whole duration of Shabbat. After Shabbat, you want to have him? Enjoy. But right now, throughout Shabbat, not only you can't eat him, you can't even touch him, you can't even move him. Touch, we said, mukseh is fine. Right? However, why is that? As we said, because he pushed them out of his mind. Is makseh otamidat. I just want to be clear, right? And therefore, they're not edible. Therefore, they become mukseh for the whole Shabbat. Now, what if they got completely dry before sunset? Let's say sunset is at 8 o'clock, and they were already dry by like 5 o'clock in the afternoon. He had no idea. When Shabbat began, he thought, chaval, I have those things aren't ready. Then on Shabbat he goes, look at them, I have raisins. So he tells his wife, you know what? Hey, chaval, I could have had these raisins. What happened? She says, we could have them. He says, no, it's mukseh. She says, no, I came and I checked them out before Shabbat, and they were all ready. What do you say? Are they mukseh or are they not mukseh?
If she checked it before Shabbat.
But he, in his mind, he pushed them off. He thought that it's not ready.
But she's the cook, so she's the one who's going to use it.
Perfect. He's making them mukseh. No, listen to the logic. He's making them mukseh. He's pushing him off of his mind before Shabbat was a mistake. It wasn't an educated pushing off. It wasn't an educated making him mukseh. Therefore, they're not mukseh. It was mukseh beta'ut, right? It was a mistake in his judgment. He thought that they were not ready, right? Because he didn't go upstairs and check. Or even if he did, he doesn't know. He's an ignoramus. His wife knows better. She checked them Friday afternoon. They were ready. She just wanted to leave them there to get more dry, better, whatever it was. And therefore, you could go ahead and move them on Shabbat, and you could eat them on Shabbat. That is fine.
What if she didn't check?
No, if no one knows, then how could you know? Maybe it was the 20 minutes into Shabbat. That's when they became edible. That's asur. It was mukseh. At the time of Shekiah ben hashmashot, it was mukseh. Once we said again, migudi itketzai ben hashmashot, itketzai lekule Shabbat.
So what if this is a little different. What if you have, romaine lettuce in your fridge and you didn't check it before Shabbat? So you have in mind that you're not going to use it, but then you have guests and you need lettuce.
So what are you going to do?
Check it on Shabbat?
You could check. Like what you're going to do with the bugs?
Well, you have to rinse it. You have to clean it first.
What did we say?
Hold on, didn't we learn that you're not doing it to kill the bugs, you're doing it so they could have lettuce.
Yeah. Right.
So checking is not a problem, right?
Okay.
If you don't see anything, right, then you could anyway wash it, right? And even if you do, right, who says you're gonna die when you wash? Yeah. Good luck.
Even if you use the vegetable wash?
I think we said that's also fine.
It's fine.
It doesn't kill them. It just makes it slippery for them to go off. Now, this mikudeit ketzai is only if you cast it aside. Let's say you have, I don't know if anyone does these things these days, but someone is making pickles, right? They go to the market and they buy pickles. They call them pickles, not cucumbers. The ones that you could pickle. So he buys them and they put them in salt water, vinegar, whatnot. And he goes, you remember what we learned in Halachot Kevisha after Bishul, after cooking, we said, if he takes them out, he says, oh, it's not ready. Can he put it back in? No. Now, are these mukseh? Let's say it's not ready.
Not ready yet?
Let's say the pickles are not ready. Are they mukseh?
Can you eat it?
Well, you can eat it before.
Thank you. They even sell half sour pickles.
That's
Batamt, by the way. I don't want to plug Batamt, but they're the best half sour pickles. And so yeah, of course, even partially pickled. I don't know if you ever had it. Even partially pickled. A lot of people eat them. Some people prefer. They don't want too salty and stuff. So therefore, it is not mukseh. It is not mukseh, and one could have him. It's food, right? No problem. Now comes the big mahloket. Clothing, right? This doesn't happen again in America. It happens more in Israel, less now, but yeah. People wash clothes and then they hang them to dry. Okay, Mishnah Berurah says if this clothing was very wet at the time of Ben Mashot, that means at the time of the beginning of Shabbat, right, and you were hanging on the line, it's Mukseh for the whole Shabbat. Why? Because it was Mukseh in the beginning of Shabbat, it remains in the status of Mukseh for the whole duration of Shabbat, and you cannot take him off the line. You want to wear it, you want to wear the shirt, whatever it was, can't. Rav Ovadia says, why not? It's not only Rav Ovadia. Many others argue with the Mishnah Berurah. Mishnah Berurah is the Chafetz Chaim, Mishnah Berurah is the Chafetz Chaim, he wrote the Mishnah Berurah, but a lot of people argue with that. And they say you could, even if it was wet at the time that Shabbat began, right? Because naturally you didn't push it off of your mind. Right? You knew tomorrow it's going to be perfectly fine, right? And you didn't push it off of your mind. You said as soon as it's going to be dry, even if it's not completely dry, I will wear it. So the wind and the sun, they did their job, and it got dried already on Shabbat. Therefore, you could go ahead and move them and use them on Shabbat. We don't say that it's Mukseh because you knew that they're going to get dried on Shabbat. Okay? So that's the chidush of the clothing. Some want to say that what are these things? Clothespins, right? They're Mukseh. Rabbi Tzion Abba Shaul Zechar Tzadik Livracha, he said they're Mukseh. So if you want to get that shirt off of the line, just tug on it, without moving the clothespin. But even that, we say it's not Mukseh. So therefore, we could go ahead and just release the pin, take the shirt out, and use it. All right?
So you could do laundry right before Shabbat, hang it up to dry, and wear it tomorrow morning, the next morning.
Basically, yeah. Basically, that's what we just said, right?
It's not b'diavad?
Why is it b'diavad?
Because it wasn't wearable.
Sephardim say b'diavad. Why? I don't think it's a problem. It doesn't seem like it's a problem. Many poskim, it's not just Rav Ovadia. Many poskim say that one could do it.
You can even throw clothes in the dryer, right as you light candles and then use them.
No, how are you going to open the door? The light turns on.
It won't turn on.
No, it doesn't.
No light turns on?
No.
Really?
Yeah.
Nice. Mine, ours, if you know for sure that no light turns on, then yeah. What's the problem? It's Mukseh. You're not moving anything. Mukseh.
Just seems
Look, if you're Ashkenazi, it's isur. Ashkenazim, they don't turn a washing machine on right before Shabbat. Although we'd say there's no shavut by kelim, that means the Gemara says, how could you take a pot, right, and put it over the blech on Friday afternoon? Your fire and your pot are working on Shabbat, right? The Torah says your animal can't work on Shabbat. You can't have your cow go on its own even plow your field on Shabbat. It's asur. It says that you and your animal, you have to. So they say there's a machloket, there's an argument between Beit Hillel and Beit Shammai, right? If the same thing applies to kelim, that means your kelim can't work. So the Gemara says, what are you talking about? Kelim? Then they ask the question that I just said, so how is your pot? The food is cooking and they have to go through the whole back and forth. At the end of the day, so Ashkenazim are mahmat on this. Ashkenazim they wouldn't do this. They wouldn't put their washing the things in the machine because they say, afsha milta, it makes noise, and that noise is not a Shabbat thing to have. But even them, sha'ata dechak, let's say, everybody brings the case, soldiers. They are soldiers in the army. They let them go usually Friday. They have to go back, be in the base on Sunday morning. They have to run to the bus. Anyone who has been in Israel saw they have to run to the bus and go back to the base. Now they have all the clothes from the whole week that they carry with them home. So they get home Friday afternoon, especially in the winter, and when are they going to wash it? Right. So right before Shabbat, that's the only chance they have. Right before Shabbat, they throw them in the washing machine, turn the washing machine on, and Shabbat. Now, like, is that allowed or not? So Rabbi says for sure for Sephardim it's okay. Ashkenazim, even them, in this type of situation, he allows it. Right? I'm sure it makes life much easier. We have time to introduce another type of mukseh. Okay, it's called Mukseh, mahmat, chisaron, kis. What does that mean? Something is mukseh because chisaron kis is lack in pockets. That means this thing it's expensive, right? So usually, this mukseh falls together with a keli shemelachto leisur. Okay, a keli shemelachto leheter. Usually, I say because we're going to have some examples that will be keli shemelachto leheter, and they're going to become a mukseh mahmat chisaron kis. Now,
sorry, it falls into which category usually?
It's together with it's a keli shemelachto leisur, right? Like a camera, an expensive camera, is mukseh mahmat chisaron kis because you're not going to give it to your kids to play with, right? It's something there's a chisaron kis. There's going to be a damage. It's an expensive thing, or what else? What else is a good example? We're going to have plenty of examples of this. Right? This is something that you're very careful not to just use it for anything. Like, you're not going to take a camera and say, oh yeah, I need a step stool. I'm going to step on this camera to go up or reach a shelf, right? You're not going to do that. Shochatin, like, they have a special knife. They're very careful with this knife, right? They only use it because the smallest blemish on this knife is going to make it redundant. They can't use it. So they really wrap him in a special case. They're very careful with it. So a shochet is not going to take a knife and peel an orange with it. No way. Or a moher is not going to use the knife, like, to cut an apple with. No way. These things are first of all, they're expensive. They're surgical, and they're very careful with them. These are mukseh mahmat chisaron kis. Okay, and therefore they are on Shabbat. The halacha becomes more stringent. Not only you can't move it, you cannot move it l'tzorach gufo u'mkomo, right? It's off. It's off limits. It becomes like a mukseh mahmat gufo, and you cannot move it under no circumstances.
Question.
Yes.
What if your child goes into your makeup case and opens up like a powder, one of your makeup compacts?
Right.
So you're afraid that they're gonna waste it, number one, and they're gonna get it all over. Can you take a bishino and put it in?
Oh, bishino, yeah. We mentioned before, bishino, these things you can move, right? But there's gonna be a waste, money in that case. If it's a danger, they might eat it. For sure, you could take it away, right? But if we're talking about tzorach gufo u'mkomo, it's something which is mukseh mahmat. Mukseh mahmat chisaron kis. Even a tzorach gufo u'mkomo, we can move, right? Meaning like this: you have this knife, right? The shochet's knife laying around, and you're afraid, or you want to sit on the chair. You can't move it. You can't move this knife. Get yourself some other chair, or mahmat gufo. Like you want to l'tzorach gufo, you need the knife. What are you going to use it for? For shechita? That's the only usage you could have with it. You're not going to do that on Shabbat. It's asur. Therefore, we can't.
What if it causes shalom bayit between? Let's say the kid moved it onto somewhere, took it out of the case, moved it somewhere, and
Whew. It's trouble.
Yeah, but you can move it if it might cause danger.
Danger, yes. No. So you're considering shalom bayit danger also.
No. I was thinking the shechita knife, it's dangerous if
For
it's
sure.
lying around.
If it's shechita knife, you should know. I don't know I'm sure you've seen shechita knife. They're extremely sharp. It depends, chicken or cow. Cow knife is about this big.
wow.
Yeah, it has to be twice the size of the neck of the cow. Yeah, it's huge. It's really huge. A chicken is small. Anyhow, but that's the start. Be'ezat Hashem will continue. Mukseh mahmat chisaron kis. All right, Shabbat shalom.